Our first speaker today is Richard Hassell of Wuha Architects. Richard is going to get us underway with a 20-minute presentation on the interrelated paradigms of design and technology, sharing some of his own work to articulate the interrelated paradigms of design, innovation, digitalization, and digitization, and beyond. Over to you, Richard.
Hello, my name is Richard Hassell. I'm a founder of Wuha Architects, and I'm very pleased to be presenting today a provocation on design times technology. So this slideshow is just a collection of thoughts. It's not necessarily a particularly linear narrative, but I've just put together some responses to this idea and some things I've been thinking about lately. So we're at a cusp of AI changing our relationship with technology in a profound way. The impact of knowledge work has previously been in improved tools which enhance our content creation. But I think at the moment, suddenly we're facing the fact that AI can generate our creative content also. And this is very disturbing, and I think this fear of the impact of technology is something that's been with us a long time. And Frankenstein, although it also is kind of schlocky and funny, I think is really encapsulates this fear that the technology that we are creating may end up going in directions that we didn't anticipate and leading us down a dark path. So I'll talk about a few things today: augmented design, complex systems. As designers, whether we embody complexity or we represent it, or both. I'll look at the relationship between AI and design. And lastly, I will just sort of share some thoughts that about a positive viewpoint that maybe we're approaching an ecology of intelligence. So augmented design is really where we are at the moment, where AI is giving us a whole range of exciting tools where we can really apply our traditional design methodology, but take it in new directions or get a lot further than we used to be able to. But I think we're at the stage where mostly what we do as designers can now be replicated by an algorithm, even highly personal artistic styles. So the question is why we need humans to develop these styles. Can AI just generate new styles and we choose the ones we like? So can we all become a bit more like curators? And what happens when we also outsource the selection of styles to the AI? Do we still have a role in this process? And so this is something that happened recently where a British engineer developed a robot that he called Ada, after Ada Lovelace. And it's a robot that can draw and paint very much like a human can. And so I think this is something very disturbing to us, to see that robots and AI are starting to be deployed into the human creative sphere. There's also many aspects of filters, you know, on every phone and app, but just here looking at the one that comes with Photoshop. So they have some neural filters which apply artificial intelligence to styling across, to bring a style from an image across to a photograph. And I just fed that AI image through the, although the robotic artist image through some of these filters. So here's the image in the style of Edvard Munch, or in the style of Cézanne, or even in the style of The Matrix. And these are all quite crude in a way, but effective illustrations of technology, which is already probably quite out of date at the moment. So in some ways, I feel like augmented design, it's a creative condition that we're working through at the moment, but it's basically already over. And while there may be a decade or two of convulsions, we're really already in the death throes of traditional design. recently, an artist won a competition with a painting that he developed using Midjourney, an artificial intelligence software that creates images, surreal and beautiful images. He declared it, so it wasn't a secret that he used the software, but it created a bit of an uproar online. But it's a very evocative and beautiful image, I think. We've been looking at it within WOHA ourselves. So we've used Midjourney to just create various architectural moods or scenarios. And it basically creates, just from a word sentence, it assembles images for you, which you can choose from and then enhance, add further directions or like splitting choices, and sort of move towards a visual evocation of what you intended by your sentence. And so these are quite eye-catching and effective architectural communications, I think. And you could easily imagine developing a competition scheme or a design around these kind of images. I think the disturbing thing is that perhaps then you have to question, as architects, yes, we're coming up with a sentence, but we could just as easily imagine our client coming up with the sentence, or perhaps you know, a bank's artificial intelligence coming up with the sentence that would come up with the architecture that would then be delivered through some kind of robotic fabrication process. And you could start cutting humans out of the process almost altogether. So just step back a little bit and look how we got to this point, because I think there's some interesting books and theories that have led us here and could be something interesting to look at. So first one is Gregory Bateson, really interesting academic and practitioner who crossed many fields, from psychology to ecology, through art and cybernetics. So he was very interested in this idea of systems thinking and different domains of knowledge and how they might map across onto each other, and how our minds and our intelligence are actually part of nature. From that, I think the computational power of computers in the 1970s and 80s and 90s developed this field of complexity, so we could start modeling really complex things such as weather or climate or cloud formations, or basically any kind of process that fed back on itself through feedback loops. These calculations were impossible before computers allowed us to make very rapid, you know, the speed of computing basically could create results fast enough that we could use them. This understanding of systems that underlie really all the universe and nature, as well as our own technologies, has become a kind of theory of everything that crosses through all the different domains. And a very interesting book recently by Jeremy Lent looks at like the philosophical and ethical and sort of moral meanings behind these interlinked systems. I think this is a really interesting investigation, you know, in how this fresh understanding of our position in the universe can actually generate very profound, meaningful insights, which start to cross over into issues of religion and the spirit. So computational capacity actually helped us understand complexity and model it. And now AI is starting to model what goes on in our minds. But I think the really interesting thing is that a model can never map precisely one for one what is going on in the thing that it's modeling. So even tiny differences in the algorithms between our meat minds, our carbon minds, and the silicon minds of computers will actually create new meaning, new ethics, and new philosophy. And I don't think we're ready at all for the implications of this. I'll make another jump now to sort of intelligence and complex systems and design. And think about what, if we're really designing like through a process of artificial intelligence, through iteration, through designs that evolve through complex feedback loops, what it might look like. And I think, you know, there'll be very soon a moment when we don't know what's going on under the hood. Like, it's a bit like when you buy a modern car, you know, that you no longer can tinker with the carburetor or the radiator. It's becoming a very complex entity, which the normal person in the street really can't figure out what's going on at all. And so this is a cell image by a company called DigiZyme, and it's modeling at a molecular level what's going on inside a cell. And I think this is where computational design will lead us. This is carbon-based, but it will be some you know, silicon and other compounds, or maybe hybrids of silicon and carbon-based nano engineering. But you know, it looks amazing, it looks beautiful, it looks wonderful, but it looks almost impossible to understand. And while you can zoom in and kind of pull apart certain elements and figure out how they're working, the way all these components are interacting together in a highly complex system, I think, is beyond human understanding. So we will start needing to just trust that what's happening inside black boxes is delivering what we want. And this image from Terry Gilliam's Brazil, I think it's a brilliant film from the mid-80s or late 80s, but really explores many of these ideas about where technology is leading us and where complexity takes us, and how much control we have over our environment once we give up a lot of control to highly complex systems. So I think this embodied complexity that evolves from processes and feedback loops will rapidly exceed our capacity to understand it. And so design may become more about the criteria for success. So we're imposing fitness, just like in evolution, and picking winners and letting solutions iteratively evolve. But I think the big question is, can we maintain our control over the outcomes once the system becomes self-referential with its own internal loops? So as the godlike kind of deciders of what may be good or not good, we may somehow be cut out of the loop, I think, in future, and the system basically start running itself for itself, and we can only sort of watch it potentially in dismay. Another jump now just to how, as designers, we also maybe need to deal with this sort of complexity that's emerging through artificial intelligence and technology. So we not only use the technology, I think, but we're, as designers, human designers who are still designing, there's a role, I think, for expressing our understanding of our world through the use of metaphor and analogy. And so something I've been personally interested in, what are the aesthetics of this complexity? What are the aesthetics of iterative design solutions? And so I'll just bring you through a few things that I've been playing with as a bit of a break from the bleak interpretation of where technology might take us. And so this was playing with a little wall panel, which was very simple, but had the potential to make fractally organized complex patterns. So sort of working with extremely simple components, but to express a complex system through the placement of those components. and this is something I've been following through different architectural elements and using design algorithms to basically grow these fields of patterns that do not follow periodic pattern making, but create aperiodic or non-periodic patterns. So this is just a screen in a project in Mumbai. This is a tile designed for a coffee shop. So this uses just two basic tiles. One is the reverse of the other, but the pattern creates a kind of endless branching creeper, which never begins or ends. This is a pavilion. So working on the design, I still really love to use my hands. So this is something I'm interested in, is the intersection of drawing and technology, but developing a screen based on one of those patterns you saw before, where there's a front and a back, and the patterns are operating independently, although it's the same tile that's reversed. And so we made a kind of organically clad or screened pavilion for a product show. And interestingly, when you get the shadows through the screen through blind, you know, it really has a evokes the feeling of being in a complex nature. This is one of the examples of the kind of self-similar aperiodic tilings, where you can generate patches of tiles which have this quality. And I play just for fun with tessellation. So here's a series of frogs which can only be tiled together in a aperiodic way, and a direct correspondence to a facade where these are expressed as a screen on a project in China. And I think these are quite interesting because they're design explorations that connect back to traditional screens, but also talk about present, where we are now, where we have understanding of complex tilings and fractals and aperiodic organizations. So lastly, I'm just finishing up with a couple of little sketches I was doing as I was thinking through this issue. So this, I think, is where we are at the moment with AI and design. And I think it's not a particularly exciting future. So I think at the moment, we have a sort of novelty loop that feeds out to consumption. And so here, my sort of nightmare is that AI easily takes over the role of the designer in terms of coming up with novelty through randomized variation or combination of pre-existing elements and, you know, combining them in different ways. It could easily share these out through the attention economy, so through TikTok and Instagram, and then the measurement of the reaction to these becomes basically the fitness criteria that I mentioned before. So whatever gets the most enthusiastic reaction would then be fed to a black box process, which would output products built by robots and sent out by fulfillment centers to be fed to consumers. You know, at the same time, this new product goes back into the novelty loop and gets improved or changed or restyled or combined with something else, and that just keeps going. And so you see in my little diagram, I've called it the X designer, because I think we're no longer needed in this process. We're just scrolling on our phones and liking the things that we see, and then occasionally ordering them to be delivered to us and paid for on the universal income that we all need to receive, because none of us have jobs anymore. So I think we're pretty much here already, and we can feel, you know, we can feel our role changing and becoming just part of this reactors or curators. And I think our our sort of agency is slowly being depleted. My more optimistic prediction maybe is that what we're doing is we're moving towards a kind of ecology of intelligence, where artificial intelligence is becoming a new sort of creature within this ecology, which is forcing us to adapt, but where in the end we sort of move to a higher level of complexity and value through the introduction of this new kind of intelligence into the universe. So this little diagram, I was just trying to sort of figure out what I was meaning by all that. So I've sort of shown here three intelligences. So we've got human intelligence and artificial intelligence up the top, and I've put cosmic intelligence down below. And I think for this one sort of gives me a little bit of hope, because I think each one has a kind of domain and their interaction creates positive outcomes. So I think between the human intelligence and cosmic intelligence, that is where I see the sphere of everything that makes us human. So it's not just our intelligence, our ability to calculate or compute things, but also deeply human values or attributes such as kinship and love and reciprocity, wonder and awe, you know, our delight in the beauty of the natural world and our planet. And so I think that I've put a little arrow at the side called thriving. So I think when we're working together, our human intelligence together with the cosmic intelligence, or the Gaia viewpoint, I've called it. So like understanding our dependence on our planet Earth and our love of nature, that these things together create a condition of thriving. When the human intelligence intersects with artificial intelligence, I think that's where the condition of delight arises. This is why we love, you know, our new technology, our new phones, the things we can do, the movies we can make, the you know, architecture and engineering. All these sort of things are really to create a condition of delight at how we can use this power of computation to basically create things way beyond our ability as small mammals, I think. And so I think I put delight in there because I think we just love to make things, we love to build things, we love to imagine things, and this can happen through artificial intelligence and technology. And then I think there's another link between the artificial intelligence and the cosmic intelligence, which is understanding. Until we had this power to compute, we couldn't really figure out what was going on inside atoms, inside the universe and planets. We couldn't understand even things around us like weather or climate or the ecology. So I think this artificial intelligence interacting with cosmic intelligence gives us this understanding which we never had before. So I'm hoping in this sort of new ecology of intelligence that there's this role in the intersection of these things for designs, and that the artificial intelligence cannot really totally remove us from the equation, because with love and kinship and reciprocity and biophilia, I think these are things that could be simulated, but they can't really be, they have no point without the carbon-based human that they're wrapped in. And so my optimistic viewpoint, which I'll leave you with, is that we're moving towards a new ecology of intelligence, and this will inform the design of the future. Thank you.